Democrats who are going to be taking over embrace it. If they don't, if they divide, and if Nancy Pelosi, Jack Murtha, and others say the withdrawal is not quick enough, then I think you're going to see inaction.
And Andrea, one more question. Take a few seconds and talk about what has been the other elephant in the meeting room, and that is the estrangement between our current president and so many of the men and women who worked for his father, George Herbert Walker Bush, 41. The desire of the current president to be his own person and set his own ship has meant that a lot of the advice and worldview has gone by the boards.
Well, that's true, and it's been a little awkward. You saw Lee Hamilton starting out, not Jim Baker. You saw Jim Baker say that he has worked for 4 presidents and had never put any of them on the couch. He's not going to psychoanalyze whether this president is able to bend, to yield, to do a 180. It's been awkward. I think that is, frankly, the backstory behind why Bush 41 got so emotional at son Jeb's farewell in Florida, that he is quite well aware of all the criticism being heaped upon his son George W. Bush. That's very painful for the father. So there are those divides. But, you know, a lot of things can happen in Washington. This president knows he's in trouble. He did accept the, quote, resignation of Donald Rumsfeld after saying he wouldn't. Last night at the White House, upstairs at the White House, a Laura and George W. Bush private social farewell for Kofi Annan, who's been arguing for an international conference and is hardly this president's favorite person. People do manage to work together when this country and the world is in crisis, and that is the message from this study group, Brian.
A good point, well put. Andrea Mitchell, thank you very much for being with us. And listening to all of this over satellite in the most unlikely place in Beirut, Lebanon, is our Beirut Bureau Chief, Richard Engel. We should explain there is one of those boisterous demonstrations going on in the background. That's been the case for the last several days. And Richard, when you and I last spoke in person, it was in Amman, Jordan. I guess it was last Thursday. And I asked you on the air, what will happen, given today's media and the saturation coverage around the globe, when word of the Baker Group findings gets out? What will happen if the United States the president chooses in a dramatic way not to take the advice, especially the advice that deals with a diplomatic regional solution? Your answer then was that it will be greeted unhappily and not so warmly in that region. Do you still believe that?
Absolutely. There was also talk today about the urgency that events on the ground could overtake the situation. And I think, as you can see behind me right now, there is a sense in this region that there is no time to waste, that the players, Iran and Syria and Israel and Lebanon, are not waiting for the United States to change a course. They are already adjusting to the new realities in the Middle East. And if there is this still continuing of this stay the course message, I think the Middle East will just continue to try and isolate the United States and adjust to suit to the new realities. Right now, this demonstration behind me, according to senior diplomatic officials, is orchestrated very much by Syria. Syria trying to influence the government of Lebanon and to try and bring down the pro-American government here in this country. So there already are events overtaking the diplomatic initiatives that are being debated in Washington.
All right, Richard Engel in Beirut, Lebanon, again in the late night hours there, where you hear what's been going on, where the idea behind these nonstop demonstrations just might be an attempt to very seriously topple the United States supported government in Lebanon. That is just one more cog in the very complicated machinery known as the Middle East, the center of what today's event has been all about. Bears repeating that in a few moments we will be traveling over to one of the Senate office buildings here on Capitol Hill for interviews with the 2 co-chairs of the Iraq Study Group, the announcement from which we've been talking about over the past hour. We will sit down and talk about it with Congressman Lee Hamilton Biden and former Secretary of State James A. Baker. We'll have their responses and those interviews for you tonight on NBC Nightly News. The coverage of this, and it will dominate this news, the news agenda throughout this day, will continue here on MSNBC. Of course, also MSNBC online throughout the day. On the other side of this break, Joe Scarborough will take over the coverage. For now, I'm Brian Williams, NBC News, Washington.
'Twas the month of December. Glad tidings and cheers, for MSNBC is airing a month of premieres.
Let's have a seat there and get comfortable.
Holidays celebrated inside the pen. Chris Hansen and the cops busting predators again. Plus, real crime and punishment, much stranger than fiction. Your pal will turn this December into your primetime addiction. So watch MSNBC. It'll be out of sight. A December for all. A month of very good nights.
Are you like me? I have high blood pressure, and I have high cholesterol. Sometimes problems come in twos, but sometimes help can come in one. Catawit. Catawit contains the leading branded blood pressure medicine, Norvasc, and Lipitor, the leading branded cholesterol medicine, combined in one pill, Catawit. Catawit is one of many treatment options that I discussed with my doctor.